A pack of wolves stalked Kel'Thuzad for miles, just out of spell range. Before they fell behind, glancing warily over his shoulder, he saw them snarl and flatten their ears before darting away. Thankfully, the Arctic winds were dying out as well. In the distance, he could make out the summit, a bleak mountaintop, the sight of which gave him a sense of triumph and foreboding. The very peak of Iceground. Few explorers had ventured onto the glacier, and even fewer had survived to tell the tale. But he, Kel'Thuzad, would scale its heights alone and look down on the rest of the world. Unfortunately, almost no maps existed of the frigid continent of Northrend, and he found them woefully inadequate. Like the supplies he proudly packed for his journey. Uncertain of the path ahead and his ultimate destination, he could not teleport. Not sparing himself, he staggered onward. He had lost track of how long he'd been walking. Despite his fur-lined cloak, he was shivering uncontrollably. His legs felt like pillars of stone. Awkward and numb, his body was beginning to shut down. If he didn't find shelter soon, he was going to die out here. Eventually, a glint of light drew his gaze. A stone obelisk carved with magical symbols, with a citadel beyond it. At last, he hurried past the obelisk and crossed a bridge of what looked like pure energy. The citadel doors opened at his approach, but he stopped short. The entryway was guarded by two grotesque creatures that resembled giant spiders from the waist down. 6 narrow legs supported each creature's weight. The other 2 limbs were attached like arms to a vaguely humanoid torso. More fascinating than the creatures themselves, though, was their current state. Their bodies showed an assortment of open wounds, the worst of which had been roughly bandaged. One guard's arms were bent at improbable angles. Ichor oozed from the other's fanged maw, but the guard made no effort to wipe it away. Despite the familiar stink of undeath, the guards showed no sign or confusion, unlike Kel'Thuzad's rats. The spider-like creatures must also have retained most of their original strength and coordination. Otherwise, they would have made poor guards. Their creator was clearly a skilled necromancer. To his surprise, they moved aside to let him pass. Unwilling to question his good fortune, he gladly entered the citadel, which was significantly warmer. In the hallway ahead was a battered statue of one of the half-spider creatures. The building itself was of recent construction, but the statue was quite old. Come to think of it, he'd seen similar statues in the ancient ruins he'd passed through on his way north. The cold was slowing his wits. At a guess, the necromancer had conquered a kingdom of the spider-like beings, successfully converted them into undeath, and taken their treasures as the spoils of war. Exultation filled him. He would surely learn great things here. A gigantic creature lumbered into view, a grotesque mixture of beetle and spider. It approached him at a deliberate pace, and Kel'Thuzad observed that its towering body sported an even greater number of wounds and bandages. Like the guards, it was undead, but its sheer bulk made him feel more frightened than impressed. He doubted he had sufficient skill to vanquish such a monster, much less raise it from the dead. The creature greeted him in a deep, vast voice that reverberated with his ponderous body. Although it spoke perfectly understandable common, the sound chilled him. Strange buzzing and clicking underlaid its words.
The master has been expecting you, Archmage. I am a Nubarak.
It had both the intelligence and motor skills for speech. Astonishing. Yes, I wish to become his apprentice. The huge creature simply looked down at him. Possibly it was debating whether he would make a tasty snack. He cleared his throat nervously.
May I see him? In due time,
Nubarak rumbled.
Thus far you have devoted your life to the pursuit of knowledge, an admirable goal. Still, your experience as a mage cannot have prepared you for serving the Master.
What could have inspired such a speech? Did the Major Domo consider Kel'Thuzad a rival? That was a misconception to dispel as soon as possible.
As a former member of the Kirin Tor, I have more magic at my command than you could probably imagine. I am more prepared for whatever task the Master gives me. We shall see.
Anubarak led him through a number of tunnels that took them far beneath the earth. At last, Kel'Thuzad and his guide emerged into a vast ziggurat whose name, so Anubarak had said, was Naxxramas. From its architecture, the building was another product of the half-spider creatures. Indeed, the first chambers Anubarak showed him were populated by the undead things, which swiftly lost their novelty. Actual spiders also skittered here and there among the undead. Busily spinning cobwebs and laying eggs, Kel'Thuzad hid his distaste. He wouldn't give the enormous Major Domo the satisfaction. Indicating one of the undead spider things, he said, "You bear them some resemblance. Are you all derived from the same race?"
The Nerubian race, yes. Then the Master came, and his influence spread. We made war upon him, foolishly believing we stood a chance. Many of us were slain and raised into undeath. In life I was king. Today, I am a Cripplord. In return for immortality, you agree to serve him.
Kel'Thuzad mused aloud. Remarkable.
Agreed implies choice.
Which meant that the necromancer could compel obedience from the undead. Kel'Thuzad might be the first living being to come here on his own free will. Faintly disquieted, he changed the subject.
This place is full of your people. I take it you rule here? After my death, I led my brethren in conquering this ziggurat for our new master. I also oversaw the process of altering it to serve his design. However, Naxxramas does not fall under my authority, nor are my people its only occupants. This is but one wing of 4.
In that case, lead on, Cripplord. Show me the rest.